Thank you for your coming back. Here are some Asia headlines. LG Electronics takes fight with Samsung over washer damage to YouTube.
Australians on death row to be moved to execution jail this week.
LG Electronics takes fight with Samsung over washer damage to YouTube. South Korea's LG Electronics Incorporated, whose appliance chief has been indicated on a charge of purposely damaging Samsung Electronics washing machines, issued a video clip on Monday that it claims shows the executive merely testing its rivals' products in plain view at a store in Germany. In a nearly 9-minute video containing edited footage from surveillance cameras, Joe and other LG employees are seen touring a Samsung exhibit at a shop in Berlin. The footage provided by LG on YouTube shows Joe opening and closing the door of a Samsung washer several times. The exclusive is also seen pushing on the door vertically, but LG says that the actions are Joe's routine tests on home appliance products. The video from the incident last September was released on YouTube days after Joe Sung-jin and other two LG Electronics employees were indicated by South Korean prosecutors, escalating a bitter dispute between the crosstown peers. I apologize from the bottom of my heart once again to have unintentionally caused such trouble at a time of difficult economic conditions, Joe said in a statement, adding the other employees would not have stood by had he deliberately damaged a washing machine. Samsung said the clip released by LG zooms in on Joe when he damaged the washing machine, so viewers were unable to see how Samsung retail representatives were looking elsewhere at the moment. Samsung said it would not release the original video, however, calling such a response inappropriate. Soon after the incident, LG had agreed to pay for what it called accidental damage to 4 machines after mediation by German authorities. But it couldn't resist taking a pot shot at the quality of its rivals' products. Samsung rallied against what it described as slanderous claims and filed a complaint which LG has contested. People familiar with the matter have said mediation efforts by South Korean prosecutors failed to resolve the spat, which is the latest in run of public disputes between rivals.
Australians on death row to be moved to execution jail this week. 2 Australians on death row in Indonesia will be transferred from a prison in Bali to the location of their execution this week, the head of Provincial Prosecutor's Office said on Monday. Momok Bambang Samarso told reporters that Mariaran Sukumaran and Andrew Chan, Australians who were sentenced to death in 2006 for a plot to smuggle heroin out of Indonesia, will be sent to a maximum security prison in Nusa Kambangan Island in central Java this week. The exact date of the transfer was not revealed. I cannot tell you when the execution will take place, but what I can confirm is we'll transfer the 2 convicted drug traffickers as soon as possible, said Samarcio. The forces are ready to move then, and we've already briefed the team, he added. Meanwhile, in Jakarta, the lawyers of the Sukumaran and Chan urged the authorities not to transfer them before the expected appeal hearing at Jakarta's administrative court next week. The lawyers are currently in the process of challenging the clemency plea that was rejected last month.
Anti-Chinese protesters scuffle with Hong Kong police. Hundreds of Hong Kong pro-democracy protesters on Sunday took out their frustrations in a shopping mall where police used pepper spray to contain scuffles. 2 months ago, authorities cleared the streets occupied by tens of thousands of protesters who wanted election candidates not pre-screened by Beijing. Some demonstrators directed their frustration against the Chinese government towards visitors from the mainland to former British colony. Grassroots resentment against mainland Chinese visitors has been simmering for years, with occasional clashes breaking out between locals and tourists. On Sunday, the anger erupted inside a shopping mall in the Northern District, 7 stops away from the border with mainland China. Several hundred demonstrators, mostly young people in face masks, marched around, hurled insults at mainland Chinese shoppers, called them locusts, and shouted slogans against the Chinese Communist Party. After the months-long pro-democracy protests, also known as the Umbrella Movement, ended in December, Hong Kong's pro-democracy camp had staged another protest on February 1st, but the turnout, estimated at 13,000, fell short of the 50,000 anticipated by organizers. One masked protester who refused to give his surname and identified himself as Ai Chow said organized protests would not work. I think this is certainly because after the Umbrella's revolution from the last year, people would like to do something different from the ordinary way to express their view, their wish, especially the younger, to change something in Hong Kong, Chow said. He said Sunday's protest had no official organizer. Other masked protesters, Secretary Ching Young, who said she lives near the mall, said she came out after seeing social media posts calling for a protest against mainland Chinese shoppers. She said she had enough of mainland Chinese shoppers. I mean, they can't just walk around with their suitcases and dragging their suitcases everywhere, and when they bump into you, they won't apologize. Secondly, their manner is bad and they are very impolite. They never say sorry even when they bump into you. And thirdly, they are raising the price of goods, Chang said. Over 40.7 million people from the mainland China visited former British colony of 7 million people in 2013, accounting for 75% of total arrivals, according to government data released in April 2014.
Singapore prepares to usher in the Year of the Goat. As the start of the Lunar New Year approaches, Singaporeans with Chinese heritage have been preparing for the upcoming festivities. Singapore, a Chinatown festooned with hundreds of red and yellow lanterns, was packed with people stocking up on Lunar New Year goods. The stores lining the streets were filled with pomelos, melon seeds, and fruit-flavored sweets, as well as goat toys and red and golden decorations. Every Chinese must celebrate the Spring Festival and the Chinese New Year and need to buy these red and yellow goats. This year is the Year of the Goat, so there are more goats being sold, said Zhao Tay, a Chinatown shop assistant. Lunar New Year traditionally is seen as a time to spend with family. Chinese Singaporean Chia Kok Leong considers the family unit an important for maintaining cultural traditions in a modern Singapore. Yeah, some have take this opportunity to have holidays instead of having family gatherings, so there is this in any cosmopolitan cities, that people are moving away from tradition. But the parents have to at least assure to pass on their traditions to their children, and then they will carry it on. But if you kind of leave it loose, then you will lose that culture, especially in a place like Singapore, said Chia. Many people also visit practitioners of the ancient art of feng shui to find out what the year ahead might have in store for them. Believers in the Chinese form of geomancy see the universe is made up of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, wood, and metal that define the mood and direction of the world. The Chinese zodiac has 12 animals that interact with the elements. 2015 is the Year of the Goat.
Vietnamese buy peach blossoms in lead up to the Lunar New Year. The streets of Hanoi was bustling with people on Sunday as they began shopping ahead of the Lunar New Year. Many people buy festive decorations, an important one being the pink peach blossom. These are carefully chosen and prominently displayed in their households. To many Vietnamese, the peach blossom is a symbol for new beginnings, and they believe buying a branch will bring good fortune to them for the coming year. One resident explained the importance of the flower. To us Vietnamese, the peach blossom comes with the spring. There are other flowers all year round, but only around this time there are peach blossoms. It is a tradition since I was a kid, and that's why I take my children to shop for the blossom tree so they too can learn about this meaning, said Mai Phuong, a Hanoi resident. It would be very sad without the peach blossom in the house. There is no festive atmosphere then. This year there are many important lilies and other flowers, but they do not have the New Year spirit, she added. For many, the Lunar New Year is also a celebration of family and a time for relatives to get together. Besides peach blossoms, the traditional Vietnamese New Year's specialties are the square cakes, pickles, 5 types of fruit, and a well-prepared family meal. It is the time for people to reunite and gather and reconnect with family again. Hanoi resident Nguyen Van Ton said, "The 5 types of fruits are bananas, papayas, mandarin, apples, and grapefruits, and they are believed to bring in wealth for the new year." Lunar New Year, which marks the first day of the lunar calendar, is the biggest and most important festival for Chinese around the world. It falls on February 19th this year.
Taiwan artist carves miniature goats for Lunar New Year. An artist in Taiwan specializing in miniature sculptures celebrated the year of the goat by carving 2 tiny goats standing on the top of pencil tips. Chen Fuang-shin said he believed his 2 goat miniatures, one Taiwanese Formosan sorrel and one Tibetan antelope, are the smallest goat sculptures in the world. "I have carved 2 of the world's smallest goat sculptures. One is the Taiwanese Formosan sorrel. The other is mainland China's Tibetan antelope. These 2 goats represent double happiness. I hope they can bring good economy to Taiwan and world peace," said Chen. The Taiwanese Formosan sorrel sculpture is 0.8 centimeters long and 0.4 centimeters wide and 0.07 centimeters tall. The Tibetan antelope sculpture is slightly bigger at 0.18 centimeters in length, while 0.06 centimeters in width and 0.4 centimeters in height. The sculptures cannot be clearly seen with the naked eye, but need to be appreciated by looking through a magnifying glass. Chen said it took him half a year and 10 failed attempts to complete the 2 art pieces made of resin. The size of these 2 goats is tiny. Like the size of a grain of sand or dust, it is very difficult to decide how to fit it and on what type of object of lens to use on the amplifying glass, and what kind of sharp knife and needle to use to slowly and gradually carve it. It is also pushes the carving skills to the limit, he said. Chen used to be a designer for Taiwan's central engraving and printing plant, but the 59-year-old retired, focused on his miniature artwork, which he took up as a hobby more than 30 years ago as a weekend project. The word used in Chinese for goat is yang, but the generic term can often be used to describe other animals, such as a sheep or a ram or even an antelope. The animals are often depicted with horns in Lunar New Year images. Some experts have suggested the expression, "the year of the horned animal," when describing the upcoming Lunar New Year. The Lunar New Year, or the Year of the Goat, begins on February 19th.
Migrants in Beijing brave crowds to catch trains home for Lunar New Year. Tens of thousands of people flocked to Beijing's main train station on Monday to make their way home for family get-togethers to mark the upcoming Lunar New Year as the world's largest annual human migration continues in full swing. Crowds of people dragging suitcases and holding bags thronged Beijing railway station as they rushed to get on trains. Many of China's 1.3 billion people work in big cities across the country, hundreds of miles from their hometowns, and the week-long Spring Festival national holiday is the only time in the year that they will see their families. The 40-day travel frenzy surrounding the week-long Lunar New Year holiday began on February 4th and will last until March 15th. Student Sun Yuanbin, 23, said he was very excited when he arrived at the train station. After all, the Spring Festival is a traditional festival in our country. When people who are working in different places across the country come to train stations and see the trains that will take them back to their hometowns, they will be very excited. Although we only get hard seat tickets to stay overnight on, we still feel very happy, said Sun, who will spend around 26 hours traveling to get back to his hometown in northeastern Jilin province. A total of 2.8 billion trips nationwide are expected during the travel rush, the Ministry of Transport said, stretching railways, roads, and airways to their limits. Nearly 295 million trips are expected to be made by rail during the period, a 10% increase on the same period last year. Around 535,000 trips are expected to be made on Monday as the country reaches the peak period of its holidays travel rush, local media reported.
A grieving Indonesian family say they will not celebrate Lunar New Year after one of their members was killed in the Air Asia crash nearly 2 months ago. Relatives and friends of Air Asia passenger Gani Chandra, who was one of the 162 people killed in the December 28th crash, visited their family house ahead of the Lunar New Year, praying for the missing man's body to be recovered soon. This year we are not celebrating the Lunar New Year because we're grieving, so there will be no Lunar New Year celebration, said Franji Chandra, the brother of Gani Chandra. The ethnic Chinese family honored Gani in a Taoist ceremony. Many of the ethnic Chinese in Southeast Asia are followers of Buddhism or Taoism. We gathered here to wait for my brother's body before the 49th day of his passing away in accordance to our beliefs, but it's been so long, and so far his body has not been found, he added. A proper burial ceremony is an important aspect in Asian culture where religion plays a major role in many people's lives. In Buddhism and Taoism, worshippers believe the departed will be reincarnated after 49 days, and therefore it is important to cremate them before that date. However, for Chandra's family, the wait could be longer as an Indonesia search and rescue agency has had to halt its search operations due to bad weather in Indonesia. Lunar New Year is celebrated by only about 2% of the country's 250 million population. With less than 1 week to go to the event, some families are doing last-minute shopping to buy festive ornaments for their households, while others pray for a smooth year ahead. From my personal point of view, I hope our country is safe, peaceful, and the economy is good. And our leaders will be blessed to lead this country to prosperity, said Budi Dharmawan in a temple in Surabaya. Lunar New Year, which marks the first day of the lunar calendar, is the biggest and most important festival for Chinese around the world. It falls on February 19th this year. We will be back after the commercial.